and we are back for another episode of Bringing the Heat. As always, I'm Steve, joined by Brandon, another baseball edition. Brandon, I'm excited. How are you feeling?
After last night, not very excited.
That's the spirit, because that's what I wanted to start with today. I just wanted to go over a basic overview of the MLB standings, and in that, we can talk about the Phillies. And I'm going to put the graphic up in post production. But so today is Sunday, so they played last night, Saturday night, and the game ended a little after midnight, so it was like a little over 5 hours long, and that was actually a disappointing game, and that's like a standard for Philadelphia games now. I feel like the fact that we had three different leads past the eighth inning and still managed to lose was actually like giving me like chest pain.
This was such like a Phillies loss. It hurt to watch. Like it almost was like the buildup of like the last 10 years of just sucking. Well, not 10 because I guess 2011, but the past like almost 10 years of being so bad and losing games like this. It's like you almost watched that game last night and you're just like it's still here. It's just not nothing has changed. This team is just it's like watching a little league game last night. It was just like the infield errors are just driving me nuts with this team. But like McCutchen too, and the left is just
the ball bounced off his wrist. He should have caught it. He overran it, and he had his arm stretched out, and it hit the inside part of his wrist, and he didn't react right away. So I think it was Ozzie Albies like got to third and he should have been only at second, and I'm pretty sure that run came in. So it was like dude, what the hell? Like like you said, there's so many like errors, and it's just fundamentals. But I mean, you look at the division now. So they're 18-16, which is second place. They're tied with the Mets because the Mets haven't played the same amount of games, but it's like the same percentage.
Yeah.
The rest of the division though is just awful. Atlanta 16-17, Miami 15-17, and then Washington 13-16. Okay. Did you notice in that division, the only team with a positive run differential is
Miami.
The Marlins.
Yeah, and it's like a lot too. Like it's
plus
like
21 means they've scored 21 more runs than their opponents. How are you two games under 500?
Atlanta's is really bad too. I think they're the worst in the division with that. I think they're like a minus 17.
Yeah, 17. Phillies, they were really bad, but it's only -3 now. But that last game, 2 days ago,
the last couple games,
like 12-2 or something. But I looked around baseball. I've been like using that run differential stat.
Have you seen San Francisco's?
It's bad.
Dude, it's plus 37.
Yeah, the Dodgers was like 37 a couple days ago. They're 33 now.
And I mean, the White Sox are plus 47. I think that leads the MLB. Yep. I mean,
did you see what the Tigers are?
It's almost minus 70. It's so bad.
Yeah. Minus 68. You've scored 68 less runs. We've only played a month of baseball.
I mean, they're 10-24. Is that the worst record in baseball? 10-24.
And their winning percentage is not even 30%, which is just awful. I mean,
it's just sad.
And this whole division, the NL East, could easily be one of those teams. They're not good, and it's like nobody in this division is running away. So, as much as it pains me to say like, I'm mad at the Phillies, and I hate that we're still in this. Why are we still in a division race?
I feel like the last couple of years it's been like that too, where it's just like we're so bad and don't deserve to be there, but the fact that we're there makes me like still have hope in this team, but I just keep getting the heartbreaks. Like
it kind of, to make a football analogy, it kind of reminds me of the NFC East last year, where it's like each team is marginally worse than every team.
You just have to suck the least is literally how it is. Like
pretty much.
I knew this year going into it, I thought, like preseason predictions, I thought the Mets were going to be the best team in the division. I just think they have the most talent on the roster. But this year specifically, with how bad the offense has been around the league, it's such like an up for grabs spot in the NL East, and even like the wild card. Like, there's so many teams underperforming. Like, I think I saw I remember seeing the picture of the Yankees like lineup card, and it was like 6 out of the 9 starting 9 were batting under 200, and I'm just like, it almost makes me miss the juice balls. Like, it almost makes me want to see. I mean, I hated it as a Philly fan because our bullpen got demolished by
because
it.
our bullpen is like double-A pitchers, and it still is, and it has been for like 8 years
Dude,
now.
get
So like,
Matt Moore off of this team. I don't care what it takes. Get Matt Moore off of this team. I'm so tired of seeing him. Like, it's
yeah, I'm
just
tired of
not
seeing
getting. It's
Matt
not getting
Moore.
any better.
Let me give credit because the one guy I always seem to criticize heavy is Vince Velasquez. As you know, I believe we already talked about him on the first baseball show. But I will give him credit. The last 2 games, he has actually been a good pitcher.
Vince Velasquez fucking sucks. I can't wait for him to be
See,
off
that's the
this
thing.
team.
I can acknowledge that he hasn't been terrible, but that does not mean I still want him. That just means, hey, you've had 2 good starts. Can you do this like, maybe 5 or 6 more times?
I just like at this point, give me a 5th starter who's just not named Matt or Vincent. Like, just give me anybody at this point. When Cole Hamels is healthy, you give that guy a fucking call and you get him in Philadelphia again. That's
Aaron
all.
Harang, where are you?
Jonathan Pettibone, get your ass
Roy
back on
Oswald,
this.
you're probably working at a Lowe's now, but like if you're not, if you want to come to Philly, come back to Philly. We just need somebody who can throw 3 innings or maybe 4.
Like Joe Blanton, get off your couch, stop
Yeah.
mowing your lawn, and start mowing down some hitters for the Philadelphia
Exactly. And
Phillies.
then get behind the plate because we need another hitter and you can hit dingers.
I
Yeah,
don't know. This team just drives me nuts. Last night, I really thought we were finally getting going now
Me too.
as like a team. Like the last couple of games offensively have just been awesome to watch. And I'm like, Didi's starting to get it going again, but defensively, he's such a liability at this point now. Like I remember like a week ago when, they were talking on TV about how Didi has been specifically trying to get his defense together. And it's just like ever since I heard them say that, it's just been nothing but errors from Didi. It's like so frustrating.
You always hear about it, right, in baseball where it's like, you need to have a good defensive team. And I've never felt the Phillies have been a quote unquote bad defensive team. Like I haven't seen a ton of like errors compiling.
There's such a liability with it this year.
But this year, it is so different. It's so weird because it's like they're making the dumbest mistakes, and it's so frequently. Again, we are literally like not even 5 weeks into the season, and we are like falling apart. I'm like, let's save this for September. We'll fall apart then. I don't want to fall apart before it's May. And we're like I said, we're almost in the second week of May, and it's just depressing. It's definitely not good. They still
What's
obviously
scary
have
about
a chance to win the
The
division.
Phillies defensively, they're not even like top 20 in the league in errors. Like they're actually good as far
Yeah.
as the stats go, which is crazy to me because like when the errors do come, they're so blatantly dumb. Like Rhys Hoskins, I swear, like his brain just like freezes half the time he's in the like. Last night was just so frustrating in terms of like the errors because last night's game for both teams was such like an underhand like toss to win the game for both.
Here's the win.
So many times, like
And
when
swing and miss.
when the
Like,
Braves,
all right.
like when he overthrew the catcher at the, and
I
two
lost it. I started laughing. I was like, "That's a
Dude, I'm
Philly."
like, he's not even covering home, so I'm like, this is it. And
He
then
he overthrew the catcher. Went into a catcher stance because he was pissed off.
he was so butthurt
Bro,
about it.
the guy's running
And
from
the Cushion
third.
scored. Like, but it's just like things like that where then you get comfortable and you're like, oh, awesome, and then they screw it up somehow. It's just
I honestly saw that, and at that point, it was like bases. I think it was the 12th, and it was like bases loaded, no outs. I said, "We have to win this game." They get the runs. I'm like, we probably have the game. And at that point, I was still like, and then the runner on second, that rule just seems to haunt us. I mean, I like it.
it makes it fun. It's kind of like when hockey changed over to the overtime, where like 3-on-3 hockey, and now it's just like, you can get screwed so much easier, but it's so much more fun to watch than just like a typical overtime game.
Yeah.
So like, I get it because they want to end the games quicker now, but it just every time something like this happens in baseball or like in any type of terms, it just seems to like work against the Phillies' favor. Like they never seem to capitalize. When they scored, all those runs last game or the game before, like I finally felt like, wow, I'm like, this is what it feels like to have that offensive burst. Like it feels so long since the fucking Phillies have done anything like that, but it feels like we've been victims of that so many times.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's unfortunately how it is, right? I mean, like, and again, this game went in, it was over midnight, and once I think it was Anya de Los Santos, and he's another guy where it's like, look, man, you're not a major league pitcher, but I
He's just
swear
a
to God,
body
I've
of
said that
work.
it has to be like at least 50 players in the last like 3 or 4 years where I'm like, you are clearly not a major league player, and
There's been
it
so many
shows.
of them with this team. It's not even funny.
And it's just like, is there really anybody on free agency that would be worse? Like, no, there's actual major league pitchers. I don't care what they did last year. They are actual major league pitchers, not
Even
guys
if
from
they're
Double A.
older,
Like,
like I get they want to get away from the older age guys because
yeah,
the rebuild's been so long. But at this point, if you're serious about a run for the playoffs, like bring me a 37-year-old relief pitcher who's got a career 3.5 ERA,
Cole
who I can
Hamels.
comfortably put in there. Like
Hmm.
I'm okay. Like it just sucks. Like I'm a big Hector Neris fan. Like he's one of my favorite Phillies, just because I love guys that go in there and just like don't give a shit and like
Oh yeah,
we'll
he gets
throw it
fired up.
down. So like, and he goes through spurts where he'll look like an all-star and then he'll look like shit. And like right now he looks like shit. Like every
Yeah,
time he's in, I get like I'm never like this is like the
it's
same
like
over.
anxiety because he
It's
threw a
always like
fastball right down the middle. And like Pablo Sandoval's coming up to the plate with the tying run on, and I'm like in my head, I thought, there's no way this happens again. We're fine. And I'm just like standing there and I see a fastball go right down the middle and he
he's a
puts it
Philly
right center
killer.
field. I said, wow, that's
Pablo Sandoval is like the guy. He's one of those names. He's like a Dan Ugla, where like you always
David
see him
Wright.
and you're like, how is he still in the league? And then he somehow at that age is still just tearing up the Phillies. Like it's just there's always this group of guys.
Yeah, like Sandoval, Dan Ugla, David Wright, Ryan Braun, uh, even
There's
to an
so many.
extent, David Freese. Like, there's just guys where you're like, they are just notorious for killing the
Well,
Phillies.
Freddie Freeman is just like not going anywhere, but that man just eats Phillies pitching alive.
He's great. I would so take him at first base over really anybody we've had other than Ryan Howard. I don't
100%.
care. He's great.
100%. And you
But
can't hate Freddie Freeman too. Like he's just like he's such
I
a good
know.
guy. Like there's certain guys you just hate for some reason when you see them. Like even when they're just not even just because they're so good, you just hate that. Like Juan Soto, I can't stand him. He's probably a good guy. I just can't stand him. Like
Yeah,
just his face. Anthony Rizzo, I can't stand.
I
Like he
can't.
just looks like
Yeah.
a dork. Like it's just like there's some guys you hate, but Freddie Freeman, like that man could hit 2 home runs off us today or yesterday, and I'd just be like, fucking Freddie Freeman. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Like, damn Braves. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'm like screw the Braves, but Freddie Freeman, man.
yeah, that it's something, it's like a level of respect. Like, we respect how good he is.
You almost gotta appreciate it. Like
Yeah.
it's like
And
Mike Trout. I would never be mad at watching Mike Trout tear our team up. Like if that man hit a walk off grand slam, just demolished our pitch. Like I'd be like, wow, that sucked. But it's fucking Mike Trout.
you're
Like
like, yeah, go Mike Trout. Like, start getting hyped up. You're like, yeah, we lost, but hey, it's Mike Trout. Like, yeah,
yeah,
no big deal.
like wow, I got his jersey in my closet. Don't know why, but I do, and it's like I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, so right now, I mean, there's really no division in baseball that is a quote unquote runaway, but if you look at it, like the NL East is obviously the closest division because even Washington in last place is only 2.5 games out, which on paper you would say, wow, this division's really close and competitive. And it's like, no, the game, like every team, those
They're
5
all,
teams are atrocious.
they're all just bad, and it's gonna depend on who's the least worst, and like
Pretty much.
who is the best shitty team out of the shitty teams this year.
That's
Who
valid.
sucks? Because we talked about the NL beast going into this year. Like we were like, this is gonna like one of the best like divisions in baseball, and like they suck. Like they said, like maybe it's just the hitting not picking up, but they suck. Like they suck. It's just the
Yeah,
Mets.
my
They
hot
suck.
take for this show is gonna have to be that I've the last couple weeks I've had to change my prediction because I said 88 wins in the beginning. My hot take is they're lucky to get 80 wins.
You
It is
could win the
bad.
division with 88. Like that's when you look at the last 10 games of all of the 5 teams in this division, it just makes it even more of like a geez, this team like this division is terrible. Like Mets are 6-4, Philly 6-4, and then all 3 of the teams are 5-5. Like nobody can consistently win. The Mets are on a 4-game win streak, but like they have to be the shittiest first place team in baseball right now.
Yeah, easily.
Like I mean, Francisco Lindor can't hit right now. it just seems like everybody in baseball can't hit, like, for some reason. And like I said, it makes me kind of miss the juice balls because it's like, are you like a pitcher's duel kind of guy? Like you like a low scoring pitcher's duel, or do you like a high offensive, like,
Like, probably more of a fan of like the high offense, but I do appreciate the pitcher's duel.
I love the pitcher's duel, like when you got like DeGrom versus Nola, or like something like an ace against an ace. That's fun. But like when it's every game, it feels like it's kind of just like it's no offense. Like it just kind of gets, I don't know. It just is like not exciting because I'm still excited to watch, but it's just like I can't get into it as much when 4 or 5, 6 guys on the team are batting 200. Like,
yeah, it's embarrassing, and it's gonna be a rough. Again, it's May 9th, and we're already writing this team off, and there's just months and months left, and it's gonna be a rough summer. Like they need something to seriously turn it around. And Joe Girardi with the double switches, they're killing me.
Yeah, dude, Joe Girardi's driving me insane. I can't believe he took Gene Segura out last night. Like, you got one of the best hitters in baseball. I think I saw Gene Segura's batting like the second highest average in all of baseball right now. Like, how do you take him out of the game when you're in that tight of a game? I don't get it.
Yeah, and it's becoming one of those things. Everybody online is trying to say like, like. He's similar to Gabe Kapler, and we should have kept Kapler, and then I had to like,
It's a hard comparison because Gabe's taken a crappy San Francisco team 20-13 over the Dodgers right now in the West. Like, it's almost, and it's not like it's luck. It's not like the West sucks. I mean, they got a run differential plus 37. They're playing good. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Like Joe Girardi and Gabe Kapler can both be bad when they were managing. And I think that's true. I think right now, like, and that's not what they got Joe Girardi for. Like, we brought him in for that experience because we had Gabe Kapler. And now Joe Girardi is just like making terrible decisions. Like what was it, 4 or 5 days ago when Anyel got called up, he didn't put him on the lineup card, so he was in.
Yeah, he tried to bring him in the game, and then he ended up putting Oh my God, David Hale, dude.
David Hale. Oh my,
how this guy is still pitching on this team is beyond. Like, I almost feel like when they put him in, it's just Joe Girardi putting up the white flag at this point. Like every time he's in, he fucking sucks.
I can't. There's nobody in that bullpen I dislike more than David Hale. David Hale's easily the worst reliever in that bullpen.
It's like we talk so much about this bullpen being so much significantly better than last year, but like this bullpen, I don't trust most guys still. Like Alvarado, I trust probably the most, and even him, like when he gets kind of wild, it's like it's hard to. I mean, I like Sam Coonrod. He's pitching, real well this year, and like Brogdon, I sort of feel okay with, but it's like, man, this team needs Archie Bradley back in like a bad way.
Yeah, I think between like Alvarado, Neris, Bradley, and you could use Coonrod, I think all 4 can be decent enough, right? Like they're not going to be perfect, obviously.
Yeah.
So, but I think they're major league relievers. So I think you actually do have some talent there. And when you don't have to use each one every single night, it does help. And it's like, again, that goes back to our starters. Why do we only have really 3 starters? Because it's like up until 2 starts, like prior to yesterday, Vince Velasquez was awful and was going like 3 innings. And it was like, all right, get the bullpen started so we can lose this by 8 runs and need the bullpen again tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point where like, it's like last time we talked about everything, we talked about the needs. It's like, it's still the same shit. And I almost think we need another bullpen guy now. Like, I didn't really think it coming into the season, and like last time we were on the podcast, it was so early that I was just it was we see what we see. But like at this point, it's like Roman Quinn was finally getting hot, and then he has one of the worst bunt laydowns I've ever seen in my life. Like this man, literally his best chance of getting on base is to lay down a fucking bunt, and he just smashes his finger. Like I don't know.
And I gotta be honest, when I'm playing the video game, it'll be the show 21, and I keep Roman on my team. I swear to God,
you could just bunt. That's it.
All I do with him is I bunt.
You can just drag bunt, and the man's on first.
And usually when I do that, 99% of the time, I do it.
He
bunts it foul, and then he gets out. I'm like, good. Now you know I don't start, you son of a bitch.
But it's like, he was, and it's not like he was tearing it up. He was, he finally got up to like 136, which is what it is. And then Odubel finally kind of seems like he's starting to turn the page. I think his last 4 games he's gotten hits, which is good, including he had the home run. So
yeah, I think it was a 3-run home run.
that's good to see. But I still feel like maybe center field is kind of like a wild card as far as we need to make a move now. Like maybe see how Odubel and I don't even know whoever else at this point. When Roman's out, Adam Hazley's out. I guess it's just Odubel at this point in the center field, unless they want to try and Mickey Moniak. But at this point, Nick Maton, throw him in fucking center field.
Exactly.
Like that dude is. It's one of those things where you thought when he came up he was just like on a little hot streak and would kind of come back down to earth. But he just looks like he's a good hitter. Like he just looks like a good major league hitter.
Yeah, we were talking about it in the group chat yesterday. It was weird because they brought him up out of necessity, right? Like, I think that was when Hazley left and like somebody was hurt or something. So they brought him up just for more depth. And it was like, okay, fine. He comes in, he balls out, becomes one of the best hitters and like defensive guys on the team. Now all of a sudden he's kind of earned a spot. And it's like, if Gene's going to come back, play second, I am putting Nick Maton in center field and saying,
you got to keep him in the lineup somehow.
Like here, yeah, like you're the center fielder. Congratulations. And if we need you to play the infield at some point, you can be double switched or whatever. Like, I think
you almost got to keep him in the lineup. Like, batting when he's batting. Like, I guess we'll see how it pans out. Give me one second. Let me get my cat out of here.
Cats are evil.
Yeah, if I don't get him out of the room, he'll make an appearance on the podcast like 30 times. So
I stand by that comment. I think cats are evil things, man.
I'm not a big cat person until I started dating my girlfriend, and now the cat is just kind of part of my life. So I'm cleaning the litter box, feeding the cat every day, and I'm just like, what am I doing, dude?
And it's like, I don't even like these fucking things. Yeah, that's but yeah, so right now, baseball, we're still in the first week of May, and I hate those people that are like, it's still early. We can't make any rash decisions. No, we can't.
Dude, I had somebody in a Facebook group was like, I was like, this team needs a fifth starter, and they need a center fielder still. They need some bullpen help. And they're like, well, when you get to the postseason, it's all about, the top 3 guys. You don't really, use the 4 or 5 starters or have to worry about. And I'm like, how are you going to get to the postseason with the 4 and 5? Like Chase Anderson, I'm very okay with. A 4th, 5th starter, Chase Anderson looks good as that role. Like he's not a 2 or 3 guy. He's pitching exactly how I'd want him to pitch. He doesn't get very late in games because he kind of works the corners a lot when he's pitching and runs up the pitch count. But he does what he's out there to do. Vince Velasquez is so shaky and inconsistent. Like, he's going to lose games that we should win that we're going to need to win in order, because the division's so tight. It's not like anybody's running away with it. So it's these games that Velasquez is losing us that are so winnable are going to count once the end of the year comes. And we're like, damn, we missed the wild card by 2 games. We missed the division by 2. Like, those are 2 games we could have won if we got ourselves a functional 5th starter, like anybody.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part is just and that's what makes me wonder, like, are you really trying to convince me that there's either nobody in AAA or nobody in free agency that would be better than Vince Velasquez? Because
anyone on the trade block, like I highly doubt the trade block is not open right now with at least 4 or 5 decent arms that could be a 5th starter. I just highly that wouldn't cost you really anything. Like, obviously I don't want to trade the farm system with this team, but if you're serious, like, it's kind of like you can compare it to the Sixers right now. It's like you have Joel Embiid. He's in the prime of his career. This is MVP season. You don't want to trade away some of these young guys who you think could be good in a couple of years, but you got this window. Go for it. Bryce Harper and JT are not going to be here playing at the level they're playing in 3-4 years. Like, it's just not going to happen. Especially, a catcher. Maybe if you move him the first down the line, but usually a catcher breaks down pretty quick, physically. And Bryce Harper is already a physical mess. He's always out with some kind of injury. So it's like, this is the year that they're both playing very good. go for it. Like Dave Dombrowski is known to do that type of stuff where he will go for it. He'll spend the money. Like fucking, I'm down for it. Like go for it.
Yeah,
If
I think
it,
at this point you have maybe, I think we talked about it on the last show. We have like a maybe 3-year window where you could say like it is between probably this year and I guess up until the 2024 season. That is probably the prime of the lineup right now where like you have those years. You have to somehow win the World Series in those years. Not get to the playoffs, not get to the NLCS, at least get to the World Series and hopefully at least win one.
we should
Because
have
like
had postseason baseball within the last 2 years. Like they are so behind on that window. Like that should have began already.
yeah, exactly. We should have already been in the playoffs. Even if we get demolished in the first round, we got to the playoffs. But like the last 2 years has been like, especially last year, like all those games we like lost in the last like 2 innings, we got killed because the bullpen literally just gave away the playoffs.
Well, the fact that the Marlins were able to make it last year and we weren't is even worse. Like
yeah, exactly.
it's
they
like
don't
we were
have
saying
players.
it's like we were saying with the, like you're getting literally like an underhand pitch to succeed, and this team constantly just figures out how to fuck that up every year somehow, some way. Like they figure like when Joe Girardi, like we were just saying, was brought in. I was so excited because I'm
Me too.
like, he had good Yankee teams, so like it's hard to say like it was all Joe Girardi, like so. But I'm like, he's a legit manager. We haven't had a legit man. Like I was so tired of Ryan Sandberg, and then
Pete McCannon.
Pete McCann was so bad, and then
Jesus
it's like,
Christ.
and then we go into like Gabe Kapler, and it's just like, I'm like, dude, what is up with this team and not wanting to get a legit coach? Like I just want like a coach I've seen before on another team.
Yeah.
Like when we were talking about getting like when Joe Maddox or I don't know, any name was brought up at any offseason, like I was just like, dude, like give me a name, like. And Joe Girardi was finally the name, so I'm like, wow, this team's going to turn the corner, and they just look even more dysfunctional almost than they were last year, like or the year before with Gabe Kapler. Like they just look so out of whack. And then we're not far into the season, but the fact that like the lineup cards are coming out and it's like just so bad, like it just drives me nuts. Like the first game of the year, I was like, wow, this is like a tough lineup. Like this looks good. Like, and now we're into the year and it's like now I'm seeing a lineup card with like Odubel back on it, and Brad Miller's playing right field, and Andrew Knapson catch, and I'm just like, this team like went from looking like such a powerhouse to like such a last year or year before Phillies lineup. It's just like, it's just frustrating.
And honestly, if you look at teams like the Braves, if they got a legit, maybe you could say like 2 or 3 pitching arms, maybe one more starter and somebody in the bullpen, they're an actually good team. Their offense is crazy. Like
you can say the same with the Mets too. Like
yeah, like so like if they fix like a minor hole in their team, they are easily the best team in that division. So like the Phillies should address this immediately and just be like, yo, go get a 5th starter. I'm okay with moving Vince Velasquez as like a setup guy. Like he is only in the 7th and 8th inning.
I agree. Give us those 1 to 2 innings that you're
Like,
prepared for. Like
Because after that 1 or 2 innings, you are so unpredictable, and it gives me so much anxiety watching him pitch.
I just
But
never.
We'll see.
I haven't seen a pitcher like in so long that can be so on 1 inning and then look so bad the next. Like you see guys look inconsistent or guys look a little wild the next inning, but this guy goes from looking like an insane strikeout pitcher 1 inning, and then the next inning just looks absolutely awful out there. Like I've never seen somebody take such a dip from 1 inning to another like Vince Velasquez, and I'm just so tired of seeing it. Like the experiment has been far done. Like
it's strange. I agree. I don't understand because again, you've seen him like paint the corners and have decent breaking stuff, and it's like, okay, that's not bad. Next inning, JT calls it for a little outside. He sails that shit over here, and you're just like, what are you doing?
yeah, it just looks like
Like it just gets wild, and you're like, dude, you're like 30 pitches in.
it doesn't like it's never like he walks a batter and then kind of just gets back in the form. He'll walk like 3 straight guys, and it's
And
like
give up like a triple, and you're like,
yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like he struck out the side last inning, and now he just walked 3 guys and gave up a triple. Like
and now we're down 4-0. It's the 2nd inning.
yeah,
What
and I'm just
happened?
like, I'm just like the experiment is. I'm so
Yeah.
tired of it. I don't know what the Phillies are looking for. Like
I
with
don't
it,
either,
when
honestly.
they
I've been
got
saying this for years. I'm like, I have no idea what direction this team's going in because,
what do
like,
they think he's gonna do one day? Just like turn the corner and all of a sudden he's just like a 3-4 ERA guy. Like he is constantly just so awful, and I don't understand why he is still on the team. I could be okay with him being tried out in the bullpen. I mean, Matt Moore on the other hand needs to go just altogether. But
yeah, I'm not feeling it. And if I have to hear his trip to Japan one more time,
oh, dude, I'm gonna put a bullet in my
I,
head if I have to hear
I
this one
can't
more time.
stand it.
Like, stop reminding us that
I
no
know.
other team in the baseball MLB wanted Matt Moore, and
Stop
we
reminding us he hasn't played Major League Baseball in a
ah,
year.
like stop it. I don't want to hear it. It's not like you're like wow he was in Japan doing decent. Like now I'm fired up that he's in the. Now I'm just like cool. Like he was so bad he couldn't hack it here and he had to go to Japan and play.
Yeah, it's not like Ichiro
And
where
he's
he was a star there and then comes to the major
yeah
league and
like
you're like, wow, this guy's actually a good player. It's like,
I'm
no,
like, he
he's a
could have at
terrible
least
player.
been like a Darren Ruff, where Darren Ruff went to
Yeah.
Korea and played
Yep.
good, and then now he's back and he's looking like a pretty solid bench guy. Like, no, Matt Moore sucked in the majors, went to Japan. I don't know his Japan stats, but I doubt they were great. And then he comes
Yeah.
here and he still sucks. Like, the guy just can't play. Like,
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Whether it's Japan or the KBO, the league in Korea, it just feels like that's what those like below average players do. Like they
to kind
just
of
finish playing or like they finish a season, they go there for a year or two, and then like they come back. And I don't know if it's like a mental thing, like maybe now they're ready, but like you should still like try and stay in Major League Baseball, and because you're like, isn't that your goal? Like,
I guess it's whatever pays. And
yeah,
if
it's
you're not good
frustrating. But like I said,
enough to
we'll
get paid,
obviously be following this, all season, and we'll
yeah.
definitely have more episodes where we're fired up, we're pissed off, but we're gonna take a more lighter turn here because Brandon had brought this up to me before the show, and I love it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna list our 5 top baseball movies. Feels appropriate on a baseball edition of Bringing the Heat.
And these are
And yeah,
completely
you want to go
opinions.
first, or you want me to go?
So I'll start mine off with an honorable mention because I got so many good baseball movies. I like my number 5 is 2 movies kind of together, but I have an honorable mention. There's so many fucking good ones. It's hard to choose. My honorable mention first was the movie Cobb. I just love that movie. Like anything old school baseball to me is just so much more interesting than a lot of things they come out with now. But the movie Cobb was to me was a phenomenal movie, and seeing flashbacks and stuff like that in the movie is just it's pretty interesting to me. But number 5, I have the duo of is between 8 Men Out, which is the Black Sox scandal, and Major League. I fucking love Major League. I think that movie's hilarious.
I know.
It got worse as they kept making more. Like the
Oh
second,
yeah, I stopped watching after the second one because it was getting like you can't do that with movies. Stop making 8 fucking movies. I just want 1 or 2.
yeah, it's
That's it.
hard. I mean, especially when they start changing the cast up, it's like you fall in love with the cast of the first movie, and then it's like it just you keep losing familiar faces as it goes. And it's just like, but Major League, phenomenal movie. 8 Men Out is a really good movie too. Like the whole Black Sox scandal, to me.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I have read about it, and I heard it's a really actually like solid movie.
And Charlie Sheen's in both of those movies, which is even better. So at number 4, I have The Rookie, the Jack Morris movie. I think that movie is awesome. I love when I was little, that was like one of my favorite movies to watch. Number 3, I got Mr. 3000. That movie to me was one of the funniest baseball movies. Like hitting 2,999, having to come back out of like retirement to hit that last 3,000. It was just to me, it's so funny. The movie has like
it's so like comedic. The whole
it's got
movie.
a good cast in it. Like just everything about that movie is so funny. Number 2, I got The Winning Season. So I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's I believe it's Miles Teller. I want to say Miles Teller. If not, it's somebody who looks just like him. Let me double check that. But basically, it's about a kid who it's taking place in the early 2000s, and he plays like Little League Baseball. He's not very good, but he's a huge, huge baseball fanatic. And he goes to clean out like an old lady's garage and finds the Honus Wagner baseball card in it. Freaks out, goes nuts, and he ends up getting like taken back in time, back where Honus Wagner was playing, and he's like freaking out because now he's like a grown adult and back in that time, and he meets Ty Cobb, and Ty Cobb's like an asshole to him and stuff, and like it's just like a fun movie to watch. But that was another one when I was little. I was just like super into it. It's just a fun movie to me. And then number one, I got 61. That movie is
you were raving about that movie a couple years ago. I remember
absolutely
we talked about that.
Phenomenal movie. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
I've seen part of it, yeah.
Dude, it is my absolute favorite baseball movie. I could watch that movie so many times. It's Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle going at it for the single season home run record, but it's like such good acting. It's like the story you get super into. It's like not boring whatsoever, but like it's so much fun to watch the movie. Like they just have so many good things about it. That's my all-time favorite baseball movie, 61.
So my top 5, I do like your selection because I think you had a good range of movies. So number 5, Rookie of the Year.
Can't hate that one.
Thomas Ian Nicholas, Harry Rowan Gardner, and he, he's a 12-year-old kid and he starts pitching. I just love it for like how, like it's funny, but it's like this fantasy thing, like where like the kid gets to play baseball and like act like an adult, and it's just like that feel-good movie. Just I think it's a classic. For number 4, I got Bad News Bears.
Yeah, you can't beat that one.
From 2005. I mean, the 76 version is good, but I like the 2005 one better. I think it's just that raw, like, we were kids, like, we're watching, and these kids are, like, cursing and doing it, and I'm like,
yeah,
wow, they're cool. And I was like, nah, it's actually a solid movie, and it's like, it's good. For number 3, had to go classic, Sandlot. And the first Sandlot, the second one doesn't exist in the fucking realm of everything. After the first one, that's where it ends. Okay? So I think Sandlot would be 3. Number 2, Major League. I love that movie. I think it is, again, hilarious. It's like adult, like you can be an adult and still enjoy it.
I got a Rick Vaughn jersey in my closet. I fucking love that movie, dude.
And every time I play MLB, my creative character gets the Rick Vaughn haircut.
Yeah, fuck
and with the little sides shaved in. Oh, yeah, it's badass. And for number 1, I actually just did a presentation for this in school, but number 1, I have Moneyball.
It's an insanely good movie. I was considering it on my list, but like I just have so many good ones that I've seen over the years that like Moneyball is one of those ones I can watch literally every day. It's like baseball-wise, it's such a good movie. Like it's so good. Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt together in that were phenomenal, but like seeing the statistic part of it and like the faces of like guys that we watch too, it makes it so much better because it's just like wow, like Johnny
it actually happened. Like
and I'm like wow, like I know all these names and like Carlos Paint, like all these people that you're just like wow, holy shit, I watched him. It's like, but that movie is one of that's definitely one that definitely could have been on my list. But I love Moneyball.
Yeah, I think baseball movies in general just kind of they just feel like they're well written, like ranging from something like Mr. 3000 where it's like funny, kind of edgy, something like The Sandlot where it's like traditional, you got to overcome some like obstacle and they tie baseball in with it, but it's really like
it's hard to have a bad baseball movie. Like Field of Dreams was really good.
Yeah.
With the whole Shoeless Joe thing. And maybe it's just because we're huge baseball fans that we find them like, somebody could find that boring. Me, I'm like, history wise with baseball, I eat that shit up. Like I'm like, yo, Shoeless Joe, like that is sick. And then like I look up stuff about him and I'm like, dude, like this movie's awesome now. Like there's so many movies that could have been on the list too still. And then like the Sandlot, which has nothing to do with like real-time baseball or like even history one. It's just like kids having fun playing it, but it's just like I guess because like we relate so much to baseball that it's like movies like that you're just like wow, like it makes me feel like I feel like everybody plays baseball at one point or another in their life with their friends in a league, something. So it's just like like it's different if it was like a soccer movie or something. Like
yeah, I agree.
You watch a soccer movie, you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, but, I can't relate.
Kicking and screaming is kind of funny because Will Ferrell. Yeah. But like, I'm like any baseball movie usually that I'm watching, I'm like, I can usually get into one way or another and be like, it was a solid movie. But yeah, Moneyball is definitely one I love. It's one of the only baseball movies I think I still have on DVD as well.
Oh
So,
wow, damn
and the
that.
book, the Moneyball book was unbelievably good.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I did. I was when I did my presentation, I was kind of looking into that stuff, and I was like finding out like, yeah, it was a book, and then they like created it
It's a
into a
really,
film.
really good book. It brings in a lot more to the story that you don't see in the movie. But like, the one thing I like about Moneyball a lot too is like, it still applies to like today. Like Moneyball, the way they built that Oakland Athletic team, like you see like the Tampa Bay Rays who have a super low payroll but are competing because that's how they're
Mhm.
running their team. So it's like financially, like like it's something that changed baseball that still applies today. So like I feel like that's what made that movie really good. But then you got your Mr. 3000s, which are just like
Yeah.
so funny, but like you're still like, wow, it's like it's baseball. It's almost like God, what's that movie where the kid becomes the GM of the team? His grandfather dies and gives him. Was that Mr.
Oh,
A Little Big League? Is that what it is? I
I
think
know. Let me
Big
see.
League.
Pretty sure.
I
Yep.
want to say it's
Yeah, you're
Little.
right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Little Big League. Yeah, he was the GM of the Twins.
Yeah, that movie was another fun one to watch.
Yeah, I think baseball in general, like those baseball movies, just seem to be very interesting, and it draws in like every age group.
Yeah,
People our age, even like kids, whoever, if they're just getting introduced to baseball movies, and then just like adults who are 50 plus years old, and it's like, oh yeah, that movie's actually pretty interesting.
yeah, it's like I don't know. I guess it depends on the movie, but pretty much every baseball movie, it's like it's hard. Even people who don't like baseball, you can usually find that are like, oh, I love The Sandlot. I
Yeah,
love it. Like
exactly.
it's hard to have a bad baseball movie, like I said. And it was not Miles Teller. I don't know why I said Miles Teller when I was talking about the winning season, but it's definitely if you haven't seen the winning season, dude, it's such a good movie. It's
All
super
right.
super interesting to watch, and I don't know, seeing like the Hannes Wagner and Ty Cobb era. That's like my favorite era that I've never got to see. Like
Yeah.
you know, I was looking up stats for like Ty Cobb earlier after like I
Oh, it's
mentioned
crazy.
like in a text you. I'm like, this dude, like his
It's
accolade,
unfair.
like it's just like disgusting. Like when I was looking it up earlier, I pulled up the page and I tried to save it. I don't know why I didn't hear it, but I pulled up the page and I was like, dude, this guy was a career 366 hitter with over 4,000 hits and almost 2,000 RBIs with nearly 900 stolen bases. I was like, that is just unbelievable. He was an AL MVP, a Triple Crown winner, a 12-time batting champion. Like the guy even led the AL in home runs in 1909. Like, and that granted, home runs, weren't big back, in the early 1900s, but
If you look
I'm
at
like,
his season in 1911, bro, 8 homers, 127 RBIs.
yeah, like you
Jesus
have to be a
Christ.
disgusting hitter. Like I'm almost curious what his batting average with like runners on was. Like he must have hit through the roof with guys on base, like or runners in scoring position. Like a career 366 batting average is just it's like not even fair. Like and not only that, like he was a captain in the military, which is even cooler. Like the guy
Mhm.
literally was just like a complete stud. Like
It's crazy. His only like real career accolade, he only won MVP once in 1911. Like that's crazy that like
he was
his
that good and
stats,
could only get it
like yeah, it's incredible.
because then then I like I brought up Hannes Wagner. You look up his stats, and it's like the same type of shit. Like Hannes Wagner was a career 328 hitter, and the guy only struck out in his whole entire career 700 times in how many fucking at bats? Like over 10,000 at bats.
10,000.
That is ridiculous, dude.
Yeah,
That
it's
10,000 at
incredible.
bats is actually really like ridiculous. 3,400 hits, 101 home runs. But he had, like 1901, he had 6 home runs with 126 RBIs and 49 stolen bases.
Yeah, the old time stats, like when you can see those players and you just see like how good they were, and it's like I think I texted you before the show. It was really like 5 to 6 guys in that period that were literally better than teams, like the whole the whole league. Like they
It's
were
just
just like
unfair. Like some of the
like
players.
here's the rest of the league. Here are these guys, right? Like they're just there's such a gap in talent
And
somehow.
it's like you think the people back then watching were probably just like, yeah, like he's a good player. Like
Yeah, he's solid.
this guy's
Yeah,
fun to watch. Like, you know, and now it's like our era. We're just like, wow, like this guy's batting over, you know, this guy's batting 310. He's like one of the best hitters in baseball. And it's like back then, like a 310 hitter was
like yeah,
like, you
you're
know,
right.
like yeah, like wow, cool. You're probably like a 7-hole hitter. Like
Yeah, congrats.
it's almost like I just wish I could go back in time for like one game to watch back then and just watch like Ty Cobb hit and just like hear the people around you. They're just like, yeah, this is, you know, this is Ty Cobb, the Georgia Peach. He's really good. And I'm like, really good? Like this guy is gonna be one of the best hitters to ever play this game.
Like yeah, it's good shit.
Like
And it's
yeah,
like
like I'm like usually like I feel honored to be sitting watching this guy hit. Like I don't feel that way with anybody except maybe Mike Trout anymore, like these days.
yeah, I think that's like I think just because we see his potential and how good he can be, and it's crazy because you're just like, man, if he has his potential, doesn't get hurt, none of that stuff, like this guy is going to be one of the best, and like we're watching it live, like
In
it's
this year specifically, like it's not like he's taking a decline or anything. Like this year, he's going insane with his stats. Like he's playing so good this year, Mike Trout, and it's like for us, that's so like you feel like you're watching like a rock star every time he's up. And I get that feeling every time Bryce Harper comes up, where it's just like
I
it's
agree.
like can't miss TV. Like you're like this guy might do something crazy, and it's like imagine living back then, and it's like
Mhm.
you can get like one or two of those guys on a team. Like to watch like a team with like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, like
Yeah, it's
how
incredible. It's
could you
crazy.
not sit there watching that and just be like, dude, like this is Babe fucking Ruth. Like this guy is like unbelievable. Like you could have went to a game and it's like we watch, you know, Shohei now on the Angels, and you're just like, wow, he's pitching and he's hitting. Like that's insane. Babe Ruth was pitching fucking 9 innings and hitting 2 home runs a game, like in the same fucking game back then. And people were just like, yeah, it's the Babe, you know, like
Yeah, as impressive as
oh,
Shohei Otani is, it's like, yeah, it's been done before.
yeah, like but a lot too. Like so, like seeing Shohei now, it's like for us, this is like holy shit, like this guy's insane. But back then, it's like you had like two players a team doing shit like that. Like
Yeah, it's a weirdly different like set of circumstances, right? Because it's the same sport. Obviously, it's changed a little bit, but it's the same sport with about 100 years apart, and it's like two different levels of talent.
it's like seeing guys play like how they used to play now is like so crazy. But it's like back then it was so like normal. I just
Exactly.
find that it's so weird. I want to pull up that list too. I wanted to go over with you that nice little like top 10 pitchers. What was it of all
Oh,
time
that dude, that
or
pissed me
of
off.
our era or something like that?
It was like the I think
Maybe
did
the
you send
last
that to me or
25 or maybe the last like 50 years. I know it was on my Facebook and it like I knew that was like a controversial list as soon as I read like here it is. So number one, Walter Johnson. It's the top 10 starting pitchers of all time. So it's like Walter Johnson, Cy Young, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, Greg Maddux, Sandy Koufax, Roger Clemens, Bob Gibson, Tom Seaver, and then Clayton Kershaw. The fact that Nolan Ryan is not on that list is just, to me, it doesn't even make sense. Like, I would take Nolan Ryan over three, four of those guys, like at least
yeah.
arguably. Like, I don't know how you don't put Nolan Ryan on this list. Clayton Kershaw at number 10. I like. I feel like at the end of his career, you can put together his stats and be like, this guy was fucking filthy. Like,
Mhm.
deservedly, you know, he should be top 10. I don't know if he's top 10 like right now though. Like, and I love Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of my favorite guys to watch. He's just
Yeah, he's
disgusting.
crazy.
But it's like, I don't know. And then it's like Roger Clemens. Would you put Roger Clemens over Nolan Ryan on your list?
Probably not. I don't. I think it would be close. Let me look at
Greg
it.
Maddux too. Like Greg Maddux was an insane pitcher, but it's like, I mean, at number 5 over Sandy Koufax, like I just feel like the whole list is arguable. I mean, it's hard. having like a top 10 is so hard with all time, like in a sport like baseball, because it's just like you got to squeeze in so many names in such a tight list that like so many people are going to have different opinions for. So
I
like,
didn't even realize this, but Roger Clemens has 7 Cy Youngs.
I did not know that either. Wow.
Jesus Christ. 2-time Triple Crown winner, 11-time All-Star. Yeah, see, like he easily makes that list in some facet. And that's the thing, within that top 10, I'm okay with whatever placement somebody wants to put a player. Like if they're in that top 10, like that's cool with me.
The hardest part is booting somebody out. Like,
Yeah, and that's I think
who am
that's
I
why
going
it's
to
like
get rid of?
who was number 2 on that list?
So number 2 on that list was Cy Young. I mean, Cy Young is just Cy Young. The fucking award is named after the guy. Like, enough said.
See, that's the thing between him and Walter Johnson. It's such a different game of baseball. Like when you look at their games, they were starting 40 plus games a year. Like guys don't start more than 31 now.
It's like for me too. It's like I don't. It's so hard to do like a Nolan Ryan and a Tom Seaver comparison. Like
I agree.
I feel like I would take Nolan Ryan over Tom. Not getting rid of Tom Seaver's like achievements. The guy had over 300 wins, was a career under 300 or under 3.0 ERA. Like the guy was nasty. But I'm not saying Tom Seaver is now all of a sudden like nowhere near the list. Like Tom Seaver might be 11, and like Nolan Ryan can fit in. It's hard, like I said, it's hard to make such a tight list. But then like, I feel like there's still so many other names you could put in there. Like, yeah, I didn't know Roger Clemens actually had so much to his name. Maybe Roger Clemens can stay.
Yeah, I know what Ty Cobb or what not Ty, I know what Cy Young and Walter Johnson did. Like, and it definitely did shape baseball, but I just feel like it's a little unfair. They should be like a legend section where everybody prior to like 1940 can go in because it's such a different game. Like, of course, like Cy Young, I think he's got 500 wins. That's like literally next to impossible from like the last 60
Cy
years.
Young, he's what? He's also got like fucking 300 losses as well, doesn't he not?
Which is crazy.
I mean,
like
to have over, what was it, 800 games? Because you take 500 wins and 300 losses and then some change on each. So like to have over 800 games and still have a 2.63 career ERA is just fucking like ridiculous. Like to me, like the guy's got a 131.5 like WAR. Like that's just like outrageous. And I mean, it's hard though, because like, where does a guy like Christy Mathewson sit in there then? If he's not even on the list, but the guy has almost 400 career wins with 4,000 something innings pitched and a 2.13 ERA for his career, like how does he not even make the list?
Yeah, that's why I think we should take it with a grain of salt, right? Because I think, like, even if you compare it, I mean, it's a smaller gap, but like the pitchers of the 90s, so like your Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Pedro, like guys like that, even compared to today's pitchers like Clayton Kershaw, it's still a different game. Like guys back then, and obviously years before then, you would be going longer, right? Like,
yeah,
you would be going more, you would pitch more games and you'd go in longer.
An insane amount of innings too. Like
that's the thing. You get more innings. Guys these days don't get nearly, like they don't even get a fraction of like that type of production. Like it's just, it can't happen.
Because it's hard to tell too, like comparing like, a Cy Young who is pitching, outrageous innings, outrageous amount of games compared to a guy like Clayton Kershaw who's so limited to stuff. Like what could he do in that same span? But guys like they're not built the same, but the game is also not.
Think about the competition, because
so it's like and then you get more of an appreciation for guys like Pedro Martinez and Randy Johnson because they're smoking guys in the steroid era. So it's like, an era where guys are killing the ball, these guys are still mowing them down. So it's like, how good could these guys have been when, the drug testing was amped up?
Because back then they weren't throwing 100 miles an hour. They were throwing like 90 and maybe like 85.
Yeah, and that was heat back then. Like if you threw over a 95,
exactly,
you were,
and that's good for that era, but unless something in the next like 20, 30 years plus happens where baseball changes dramatically, it's like this is as peak condition as the human body can get. Like
I almost think
right
in the
now.
next 20 years, like baseball, like you're gonna see most starters throwing like triple digits. Like
Yeah,
it's just like it just seems like it's climbing more and more. But I just feel like a list like this is so disputable with like what about Grover Alexander? Like what about I don't like there's so many names you could slide in and take out, but then it's like when you take out some names, you're just like, well, like, who is better than who that could make this list still. And then everybody right away thinks if you're out of your top 10, you're like debunking them. Like you're just like, I'm not saying a Tom Seaver is bad. I'm just saying
yeah, exactly.
these 11 guys, he's number 11. He's not making my list. Like Lefty Grove, I don't remember if he was Warren Spahn, like,
That's the thing. I think for my list, honestly, all of those guys in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I gotta put them on a different list. I can't put them
there's
like
just
with
so many players back then. Even like before the
exactly.
1900s, there's so many like unwritten statistics or like unconfirmed stats of like guys that are just like throwing crazy innings, throwing crazy strikeouts. It's like the same for hitting. Like, it's like I bring back like Ty Cobb when I was looking up his stats, is like it was saying a lot of times for like his career hits or career RBIs or career this, like it said like from this number to this number, and it'd be like a 4-number difference or like an 8-number. Like they don't have confirmation of the exact numbers. So like so many guys
Exactly.
back then could like just they have such disputable numbers that it's hard to be like 100% on stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think any list ever made, unless there's actual facts, but sports, you can't do it because there's so many stats that go into it. I
Yeah.
think every list is just an opinion. Like it
Oh
is
yeah.
what it is. Like you can't tell anybody they're wrong because what you think, you could think 10 pitchers are top 10 are completely different than what I think. And then we have different reasons for it, sure, but there's so many fucking stats that go into it that like they don't outweigh each other. They're kind of just like, they're up for grabs of like this could mean more to you than it means to me, or
And I
the
think
same
that
goes for hitters. I'd be curious to see what a top 10 hitters of all time would look like.
yeah,
That list would probably be so fucking unbelievably like disputable of just names I've never heard of, I'm sure, names that I have heard of.
yeah, you could literally probably make each number represent like a decade. So like the 40s, there's one
From this
hitter.
time to this time. And maybe one day we can make a list of like a certain decade. Like me and you can go over it for like,
Try
certain.
go by position. That's even hard. Like be like the best
It's just
catchers
so
of all
tough.
time.
Like you could like because like I said, there's so many fucking stats that go into it. You could be like,
Exactly.
well, this guy had a better, WAR rating than this guy, and I'm like, I could give a fuck. Like this guy, this guy had more wins and more better ERA, so he's better. And you're like, well, no, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
wins. That's the one pitching stat that I'm willing to not focus on because
I agree. Jacob
there's-
DeGrom's, it's like a Jacob
exactly.
DeGrom. Like the guy doesn't win much because his team sucks, but like
Exactly.
the
But look at his
guy is
ERA.
a lights
That
out
is a
pitcher.
direct correlation to how many innings he pitches and how many
Well,
runs he gives up.
exactly. Look at his innings. Look at his strikeouts. Like there's so many stats, and I think the same goes for baseball because like it's like we were talking about Moneyball with the statistic part of it. Like, what do you value? Do you value a guy that's going to hit you 40, 45 home runs and 90 to 100 and whatever RBIs, but his on base percentage and his average is low? Or do you value a guy that's going to get on base, not hit you as many home runs? What would make some guy better? A better on base or a guy that can hit you more runs? So it's like, you kind of you look at it and what weighs more to you than the other. Like, I don't know. What would you say about that? Like, would you take a guy?
Yeah, I think
Would
personally,
you take a guy that's gonna, he's gonna hit you 250, but he hits, say like a Ryan. I mean, it's even hard to say a Ryan Howard because he walks a lot, so he does get on base. But you take a guy who's gonna hit you 40 home runs, 120 RBIs. So the guy is obviously a fucking raker when it comes to batting, but his on base percentage is just over 300, and he's batting, 250. Or would you take a guy who's hitting, 290 with a 380 on base percentage or like a 390 on base percentage, but he's not hitting as many, he's not hitting a lot of RBIs, he's not getting guys in, but he's getting you on base. What do you think would outweigh the other?
I think for me personally, I'd probably take the guy with the higher on base percentage purely only because I can imagine because we've seen a lot of home runs, right? Like where you can like a guy like Joey Gallo can hit 40 homers, 100 RBIs, but he strikes out
That's
a lot.
it.
Doesn't get on
Yeah, that's all
base.
he's done. But then you got a guy like Carlos Santana.
Exactly. Like
He'll hit you 20, 25 home runs, maybe not as many RBIs, maybe 60, 70, 80 RBIs, but the guy gets on base. His on base percentage is always great
exactly.
every year.
And
'cause
that
he
idea
walks
is
a
like
lot.
you get on base, and now you're creating more opportunities to score more runs. So the guys behind you can still bring you around.
Well, it's like it's hard to even like compare it because it's like, well, what position are we talking? Are we talking about a 4-hole hitter, a 2-hole hitter? My leadoff guy, I could give a fuck if you can hit a home run. I want you on base. So it's basically like, how do you want to create your runs? Do you want to create it with a guy who can get on base and give you the chance to get in as a run, or do you want to get a guy who can just make the runs himself? Like, I don't know. I guess there's like a solid, a happy in between when it comes to building a team.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't even know which one I would value more. I like a guy that can get on base and create. I'm like a small ball guy. I love home runs, but like,
Yeah, me too.
A game of 5-6 runs and you didn't have to hit a home run, that tells me the team's hitting a lot better. That tells me, you can't swing for the depending on who the player is. A Joey Gallo, I mean, he's kind of just like a runaway. You gotta just let him
Exactly.
swing.
Like he's the power hitter. Just put him in the 4-hole and he'll just hit the home runs.
Yeah,
Like,
give me the guys that can get on base before him,
so he can
and
hit
then
like more.
let Joey
yeah.
Gallo swing for his life at that point. Like, just give me the RBIs off of that.
But that, I think, will wrap up this episode. I think that was an excellent. Oh, Jesus, breaking my microphone. That
So
was an
happy breaking
excellent,
shit.
excellent episode, and I think we covered a lot. Some current baseball. We obviously went over our baseball movies, what we thought was great, and what we thought would be honorable mentions, and then we just like to discuss baseball, realize how crazy that list was, because I believe that page was called controversial lists or something.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely controversial though, because the comment section for it was fucking.
It was bad. It was really bad. But it's been great. Do you have any last words for the fans?
Just tune in next time, and maybe next time we can maybe we can make our own lists and discuss. I honestly I enjoy talking baseball just as the sport too, rather than just the Phillies. The team is so fucking frustrating that like just talking the history of the sport and like any other thing that goes along with it was fun. So,
I agree, man. All right, man. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for all my loyal viewers, all 80 of you. I cherish everybody.
Maybe next week it'll be 90. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll find out. I'll share it on all my socials. All right, everybody, tune in next week.